You know that moment when you're scrolling through endless TV options, and a little voice in the back of your head keeps asking, am I really going to spend this much on a screen that might not live up to the hype? It's a legitimate worry, especially when you're looking at a premium OLED that's supposed to turn your living room into a cinema, but you also don't want to end up with a picture that looks great on paper and falls flat once you actually sit down to watch a show. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. I spent a few evenings actually hooking the Sony A8H into my home setup, swapping it with my old LCD, and watching the same Netflix series, a few gaming sessions, and a couple of sports games to see if the promises hold up. What I found is that the OLED panel really does deliver that deep, inky black you only hear about in marketing, and the color accuracy feels more like a professional calibration than a generic factory setting. But the experience isn't just about those headline numbers, it's about how the TV behaves when you're juggling a remote, a voice assistant, and the occasional impulse to binge a new series at 2 a.m. First off, let's talk about the picture processor. Sony's X1 Ultimate isn't just a marketing badge, it actually does a noticeable job of handling upscaling. I tossed a 1080p Blu-ray onto the TV, and the image looked almost like native 4K, with the details staying crisp and the motion staying smooth. For anyone who still watches a lot of HD content, that upscaling alone can make the upgrade feel worthwhile, because you're not stuck watching a grainy mess after the first few minutes. The OLED Plus Pixel Contrast Booster works in tandem with that processor. In a dimly lit room, the blacks are truly black, you can see subtle shadows in a nighttime scene that you'd completely miss on a standard LED. When you crank the brightness up for a well-lit room, the contrast stays consistent, which means you don't end up with a washed-out picture. That's a practical win for anyone who watches movies on a weekend night and then turns the lights on for a sports game the next day. Gaming is where the A8H shows another side of its value. The built-in game mode reduces input lag to a level that most casual gamers will find acceptable, and the OLED's near-instant pixel response eliminates the typical ghosting you see on slower panels. I played a fast-paced first-person shooter, and the experience felt responsive enough that I could actually see the difference between a TV with higher lag and this one. If you have a next-gen console, the TV's ability to display deep blacks while maintaining bright highlights means you'll notice details in dark scenes that other TVs might hide. Smart features are where Sony leans on Android TV. The interface is straightforward, and you get Google Assistant built right in, so you can say, "Hey Google, find me a comedy," and it pulls up options across your installed apps. For those already invested in the Alexa ecosystem, the Works with Alexa badge isn't just a sticker, you can actually tell an Echo device to change the channel, adjust the volume, or turn the TV on and off. That kind of voice integration can be a real convenience if you have smart lights and other devices already linked, because you end up controlling a whole room with a single command. Apple users aren't left out either. AirPlay 2 and HomeKit support let you mirror an iPhone or iPad screen with virtually no lag, which is handy for sharing photos during a family gathering or streaming a quick tutorial while you cook. I tested it by playing a YouTube video from my phone while the TV was already showing a movie, and the transition was seamless, no hiccups, no color shifts. Now, let's be honest about the trade-offs. OLED panels are known for the risk of burn-in, and while Sony adds some pixel shifting and screensavers to mitigate that, the risk isn't eliminated. If you plan to leave static elements like a news ticker or a game HUD on the screen for many hours every day, you might want to think twice. For typical viewing habits, occasional static content isn't a deal breaker, but it's worth noting if you're a heavy gamer or you run a digital signage setup. The price point is another hidden factor. The A8H sits firmly in the premium tier, and while the picture quality justifies a higher cost compared to most LED options, it also means you're paying for the OLED tech itself, not just the brand name. If you're on a tight budget and can live with a very good LED that still offers decent HDR, you might get more screen real estate for the same money elsewhere. In other words, the A8H is best for people who truly value that cinema-grade black and are willing to invest a bit more for it. Sound is often overlooked, and here the TV includes a decent built-in speaker.